Some truths don't arrive with thunder or applause. They don't announce themselves or demand attention. They slip into your life quietly, disguised as ordinary moments, and then they stay with you, heavy, uncomfortable, impossible to forget. This is one of those moments. It happened on a calm morning in a peaceful American neighborhood, where nothing seemed unusual at first glance. No cameras, no crowd, just a sidewalk, a broom, a few careless laughs, and a lesson that would change lives forever. An elderly woman stood near the curb, sweeping bits of paper and dust into a small pile. Her movements were slow but steady, practiced through years of repetition. Behind her, laughter rang out, light, careless, unconcerned. And inside a parked car across the street, a wealthy man watched silently as his understanding of success, family, and dignity cracked wide open. Before we go deeper, if you believe kindness still matters, if you believe in second chances and treating every human being with dignity, please take a second to like this video, share it, and subscribe. And let us know in the comments where you're watching from. Your voices mean more than you know. The woman with the broom was Margaret Lewis. She was 68 years old, small in stature, slightly bent at the shoulders from decades of honest labor. Every weekday morning, she wore the same faded pink sanitation jacket, zipped carefully to her chin, and pulled a cap over her thinning gray hair. There was nothing flashy about her, nothing demanding attention. Margaret didn't expect gratitude, and she certainly didn't expect praise. What she believed in, quietly and deeply, was doing her work with care. Life hadn't gone the way Margaret once imagined. Years earlier, she had raised her children alone after circumstances forced her to stand on her own sooner than planned. Retirement benefits weren't enough to survive comfortably, so she took a part-time job with the city sanitation department. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest. The streets she cleaned were familiar. So were the looks she received. Some people offered polite smiles. Others turned away quickly. Many didn't see her at all. That morning, Margaret was cleaning near a row of garbage bins outside a modern apartment complex. The sky was clear, the air calm, the world moving at its usual pace. She was focused on her work when laughter drifted toward her from behind, loud enough to interrupt the silence, casual enough to feel careless. Near the building's entrance stood Ashley Carter, 28 years old. She was confident, well-dressed, and comfortable in a life that had never required her to worry about survival. She wore a knee-length red dress, her hair perfectly styled, her voice animated as she spoke with a small group of friends. To Ashley, the morning was just another moment, another scene where she was the center of her own world. What Ashley didn't know was that her father-in-law, Richard Carter, sat quietly inside his car across the street. Richard was a self-made millionaire, respected in business circles throughout the state. He had built his fortune from nothing. Long nights, failed attempts, relentless determination. But success had slowly distanced him from the everyday realities of ordinary people. That morning, he had come to surprise his son with a visit. Instead, he found himself witnessing something he never expected. As Ashley noticed Margaret near the bins, her expression shifted, not with concern, but with irritation. She made a casual gesture, a dismissive remark that carried more comfort than compassion. Her friends laughed along, amused, unthinking. It wasn't cruelty shouted loudly. It was something quieter, and far more troubling. It was indifference. Margaret paused for a brief moment. Not because she was frightened, but because she had learned, over years, when to step aside. She tightened her grip on the broom, lowered her eyes, and moved gently out of the way. No argument, no reaction, just the quiet dignity of someone who had been overlooked too many times to be surprised by it. From inside his car, Richard felt something heavy settle in his chest. He wasn't watching strangers. He was watching the woman his son loved. The woman living in comfort shaped by values he believed he had taught. And in that instant, a painful realization surfaced. Money had protected his family from hardship, but it had also shielded them from empathy. Margaret finished her task and walked down the street, her figure growing smaller with every step. Richard watched until she disappeared around the corner. He stayed in his car long after he should have left, replaying the scene over and over. Part of him wished he hadn't seen it. Another part knew he needed to. That evening, Richard invited his son and daughter-in-law over for dinner. His voice was calm, his tone unchanged. Ashley arrived smiling, unaware of what was coming. The conversation began normally, work updates, weekend plans, casual laughter. Then, gently, Richard shifted the subject. He spoke about respect, about how a society is measured not by wealth, but by how it treats those who do the quiet, unseen work. He described an elderly sanitation worker he had seen that morning outside their apartment building. Slowly, Ashley's smile faded. Recognition crept into her eyes. Richard didn't accuse her. He didn't raise his voice. He spoke with disappointment, not anger. He reminded her that dignity doesn't come from clothing, neighborhoods, or social status. It comes from character. And the values she practiced today would shape not only her life, but the family she was becoming part of. Ashley tried to explain herself, but the words felt hollow even as she spoke them. That night, sleep wouldn't come. The image of Margaret, silent, calm, unseen, kept returning. For the first time, Ashley questioned herself. Not because she had been forced to, but because she couldn't avoid it. Change didn't happen overnight, but awareness had begun. A few days later, Ashley saw Margaret again on the same street. This time, she was alone. No friends, no laughter, just the quiet hum of the morning. She hesitated, then walked toward the elderly woman and gently offered her a bottle of water. Margaret looked up, surprised. Their eyes met, one carrying quiet strength, the other carrying reflection. Margaret accepted the water with a nod. No bitterness, no judgment, just grace. That moment stayed with Ashley. In the weeks that followed, she began noticing people she once passed without thought. She listened more, spoke less, learned names, offered smiles without expecting anything in return. Richard watched from the background, saying nothing. He understood that real change can't be demanded. It has to grow. One morning, Margaret noticed something different on her route. A familiar woman in a red dress stood nearby, not laughing, not pointing, simply watching respectfully. Margaret nodded politely and returned to her work, broom steady in her hands. If this story touched your heart, if it made you reflect on how we treat those who quietly serve our communities every day, please like this video and comment below one small act of respect or kindness you promise to practice this week. Your words might inspire someone you've never met.